the children of Israel, a people of warriors and kings. From the very beginning, from out of Egypt, they were a nation of warriors, a great army, who slayed the Nephilim in the land of Canaan, conquering both man, beast, and the seed of the fallen angels. The children of Jerusalem won many great battles. However, they also suffered great defeats. In fact, Jerusalem was conquered by Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and Jerusalem was also conquered by the Romans. With the defeat of the house of Judah, the descendants of King David were scattered. However, there was one place where the descendants of the royal house of King David, where the sons of King David himself were gathered together. Let's take a look at the sons of the royal house of King David. King Dawid, one of the great kings of Israel. King Dawid was a man after Yah's own heart, and he was a great warrior. Acts chapter 13, verse 22 reads, "And when he had removed him, he raised up unto him Dawid to be their king, to whom also he gave testimony and said, I have found Dawid the son of Jesse, a man after mine own heart, which shall fulfill all my will. Of this man's seed hath Yah, according to his promise, raised unto Israel a Savior, Yahusha Hamashiach." 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 7 reads, "And the women answered one another as they played and said, Saul has slain his thousands, and Dawid his 10,000s. The Most High Yah also made a promise to King Dawid's son, King Solomon, that if he walked in his ways as King Dawid did, that he too would be blessed. 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 12 reads, "Behold, I have done according to your words. Lo, I have given you a wise and an understanding heart, that there was none like you before you, neither after you shall any arise like unto you. And I have also given you that which you have not asked, both riches and honor, so that there shall not be any among the kings like unto you all your days. And if you will walk in my ways to keep my statutes and my commandments, as your father Dawid did walk, then I will lengthen your days." You see, one of the reasons King Dawid was special was because he was obedient to the Most High Yah. So much so that the Most High Yah used King Dawid as an example for other kings to follow. 1 Kings chapter 14, verse 7 reads, "Go tell Jeroboam, thus says Yah, Elohim of Yisrael, Forasmuch as I exalted you from among the people, and made you prince over my people Israel, and wrenched the kingdom away from the house of Dawid, and gave it to you. And yet you have not been as my servant Dawid, who kept my commandments, who followed me with all his heart to do that which was right in my eyes. It was under King Dawid and his son King Solomon that Israel was blessed and prosperous. Some would even call it the golden age of Israel. King Dawid. When his sons followed the commandments of the Most High Yah, Israel was blessed. However, when Dawid's sons did not obey the Most High Yah, Israel was cursed. During the time of the Messiah, Yahshua HaMashiach of the house of Dawid, he walked the streets of Jerusalem and he gave a prophecy. He foretold of the eventual fall of Jerusalem along with the eventual scattering of its people. This would include the house of Dawid. Luke chapter 21 verse 20 reads, "And when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out. And let them which are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled." So indeed Jerusalem would fall, its people would be scattered, and the house of Judah would be set on fire. It was indeed the beginning of the time of the Gentiles. The Roman army had broken through the city walls of Jerusalem, brought down its strong towers, and destroyed the earthly temple dedicated to the Most High Yah himself. It was the beginning of the end. Foretold by the prophets of old, a time dreaded by the people, it had to seem like the end of the world. Homes were destroyed, people were murdered, and the blood of Judah flowed down the city streets. Hamashiach saw Jerusalem's destruction in a vision and wept. Luke chapter 19 verse 41 reads, "And when he was come near, he beheld the city and wept over it, saying, If you hadst known, even you, at least in this your day, the things which belong unto your peace, but now they are hid from your eyes. For the days shall come upon thee, when thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee, and compass you round about, and cast thee in on every side, and shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of your visitation. After the fall of Jerusalem by both the Romans and the Babylonians, they both sent the sons of the house of David to Spain. As the following references reads, and it reads, the Spanish Jews maintained that they had been transported hither after the destruction of the temple by the Babylonian conqueror Nebuchadnezzar. Certain Jewish families, the Ibn Dawids, or the sons of David, and the Abarbanels boasted the descent from the royal house of David, and maintained that their ancestors had been settled since time immemorial, partly in the district of Lucena and partly in the environs of Toledo and Seville. The numerous Spanish Jewish family of Nasi also traced back its pedigree to King David, and proved it by means of a genealogical table and seals. The family of the Ibn al-Balayas was more modest and dated its immigration only from the destruction of the Second Temple. A family tradition runs to the effect that the Roman governor of Spain begged the conqueror of Jerusalem to send him some noble families from the capital of Judea, and that Titus complied with his request. Among those thus transported was a man named Baruch, who excelled in the art of weaving curtains for the temple. This Baruch, who settled in Merida, was the ancestor of Ibn al-Balayas. And the next reference reads, Abarbanel, in his commentary on Zechariah 12, verse 7, reads, and Yah also shall save the tents of Judah, affirms that at the desolation of the first temple, two families of the house of David came and settled in Spain, one at Lucena and the other, the Abarbanels, at Seville. And from these came 1,000 offshoots. Reference after reference confirms indeed that the sons of King Dawid were sent to Spain. As the following reference reads, and it reads, "The Spanish Jews are the true descendants from the tribe of Judah and the royal house of Dawid, and were settled in Spain from the time of the captivity of the first temple by Nebuchadnezzar." And it's important to note that these Jews not only were the blood descendants of King Dawid, these Israelites also lived in the holy city of Jerusalem. In other words, they literally lived in the holiest city in the world. Their address was Jerusalem. The following reference reads, and it reads, "The rabbinic dialect was principally formed in the Middle Ages among the Spanish Jews, who were chiefly descended from the inhabitants of Jerusalem." Judah. And now, if we're going to talk about King Dawid, we at least need to know what he looked like. Along with his queen, who ruled by his side with the rod of iron. What was their sign? So that you can recognize them today. The true rulers of Jerusalem and the warriors of the Most High Yah, his battle axe and weapons of war. What was their profile? So that you can recognize it today. I'll tell you what, let's settle this once and for all. Let's take a look at the profile of the sons of King Dawid. Make way for the king, for the king, for the king, for the king, for the king. And now let's review the profile of the Spanish and Portuguese Jews. We'll do this by reviewing the description of color in references older than the 1900s. And we'll also take a look at the hair texture of the Spanish and Portuguese Jews, along with cranial analysis, the study of the skull. And we'll also review descriptions of the lips of the Jews. And finally, we'll take a look at DNA, using DNA and the Bible. When we combine all these attributes, of Spanish and Portuguese Jews, we will be left with one and only one conclusion: the true description of the sons of King Dawid. And the following reference reads, and it reads, "Thus the black color is found not only in individuals as the black Jews of Portugal." And the next reference reads, and it reads, "The Jews of Portugal are very dark." And the next reference reads, "The brown Jews of Portugal and Spain." This reference reads, "Swarthy in Portugal and in Spain." And the next reference reads, and it reads, "When we look around us in this great metropolis, and behold, amid the chosen people, the Hebrew nation, the descendants of Abraham, every variety of complexion, from the fair-haired, rosy, and ruddy-faced Englishman to the crisp, frizzled-haired, and dark and dusky countenance of the swarthy Negro." Now note that both the Jew and the Negro were referred to as swarthy. And now let's take a closer look at the hair texture of the Jews. For this, let's review the Lachish relief in the British Museum showing the Jews' hair from 701 BC.
So let's continue down the line. We've got more slaves that are leaving the city. Now somebody tell me the difference between this guy and this guy. Whose side do you think this guy's on? The Assyrians, yeah, the conquerors, the Assyrians. And whose side do you think this guy's on? The slave, yeah, the people from Israel or Lachish. You can tell also by their distinctive hairstyle depicted in archaeology. The slave, yeah, the people from Israel or Lachish. You can tell also by their distinctive hairstyle depicted in archaeology. The slave, yeah, the people from Israel or Lachish. You can tell also by their distinctive hairstyle depicted in archaeology.
And next, let's review the skulls of the Spanish and Portuguese Jews. The skulls of present-day Negroes are called dolichocephalic. And ironically, the skulls of Spanish and Portuguese Jews are also dolichocephalic. As the following reference reads, and it reads, "Spanish and Portuguese Jews are dolichocephalic. Negroes and Spanish and Portuguese Jews have the same skulls." Another shared trait between the Negroes and Spanish and Portuguese Jews involves the lips. Both Negroes and Spanish and Portuguese Jews have the same lips. As the following reference reads, and it reads, "In form and feature they are short with dark hair and eyes, a swarthy complexion, full lips, and a characteristic nose." Sorry to break the news to you, but the truth is the truth. Oftentimes when people hear the facts, they are horrified. When they realize that they have treated the children of Israel most wickedly, others, upon hearing the truth, will simply go into denial. However, it doesn't change the facts. There's an additional powerful piece of evidence which proves the identity of Spanish and Portuguese Jews, and it involves DNA. Today we can use DNA to compare one person to another. to see if they are related. However, this is not the DNA analysis we can use to find the true identity of the Jews today. This type of DNA test assumes that the people in Jerusalem today are the real Jews. However, we cannot make that assumption. And that's because the scripture warns us that someone will steal Judah's land and steal their identity. Revelations chapter 2, verse 9 reads, I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews, and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. With that in mind, we cannot assume a person is a Jew just because they say they are. We need to prove it. And to do that, we need to use the Bible with DNA to find the truth. For example, the Bible tells us the 12 tribes of Israel shared a single forefather called Jacob or Jacob, renamed Israel. The Bible also tells us that the children of Israel had 4 emas or 4 mothers: Zilpah, Leah, Rachel, and Bilhah. In other words, the 12 tribes of Israel was made up of one father and 4 mothers. With that in mind, we can use DNA to see if the Negro has one forefather and 4 mothers. Now, DNA does indeed reveal that the Negro does share a single DNA forefather called E1B1A by geneticists. DNA also reveals that the so-called Negro shares 4 DNA mothers, referred to as L3, L2, L1, and L0 as well. Here we see the Negro's DNA matches the Bible perfectly. The Ashkenazi Jews, on the other hand, do not share a single forefather, nor do they share 4 DNA mothers. This further proves that the Negro are the true Jews. And yes, in references older than the 1900s, Jews are called Negroes. In short, when reviewing references older than the 1900s regarding the Spanish and Portuguese Jews, we find that these Jews not only looked like Negroes, had hair like Negroes, skulls like Negroes, lips like Negroes, and DNA like Negroes. In conclusion, they are 100% Negroes. Now that we know what the sons of King Dawid look like, let's review what we've learned so far. We learned that King Dawid was a man after Yah's own heart. And we learned that when the sons of King Dawid obeyed the Most High Yah, Israel was blessed. And when they disobeyed, Israel was cursed. We learned that the Messiah prophesied of the eventual scattering of the people of Jerusalem to all nations around the world. And we also learned that this scattering included sending the sons of King Dawid to Spain. Both Babylon and Rome sent the sons of King Dawid to Spain. Ironically, the expulsion of these people of Jerusalem occurred on the same day, the 9th of Ab. We then see the descendants of the same people later expelled from Spain on the 9th of Ab. In other words, the 9th of Ab is a day of judgment and expulsion for the people of Jerusalem. And now, let's see what happened to the sons of King Dawid who were sent to Spain. Whether from fancy or pride, it was supposed that the Spanish, or more correctly, the Sephardic Jews, were the posterity of the noblest tribe and included among them descendants in a direct line from King Dawid. Hence, the Jews looked upon them as a kind of Jewish nobility. And now these exalted ones had been visited by the severest affliction: exile, compulsory baptism, death in every hideous form, by despair, hunger, pestilence, fire, shipwreck. All torments united had reduced their hundreds of thousands to barely the 10th part of that number. The remnant wandered about like specters, hunted from one country to another. And princes among Jews, they were compelled to knock as beggars at the doors of their brethren. The prophecy Yahusha spoke would pursue and run down the sons of King Dawid until all that was spoken would be fulfilled. There was no escaping the destruction and the scattering that was foretold. There was a debt these Jews had to pay. On the day of Passover, during a time when the blood of the lamb was supposed to be on the doorposts, our forefathers were busy putting the blood of Hamashiach, the Messiah, on their own heads and upon the heads of their sons. The book of Matthew, chapter 27, verse 24 reads, "When Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, but that rather a tumult was made, he took water, washed his hands before the multitude, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this just person. See you to it. Then answered all the people and said, His blood be on us and on our children." The descendants of the Jews from Jerusalem who lived in Spain were persecuted mercilessly, no matter if they accepted Christianity or not. Even when they embraced Christianity, they were slaughtered. as the following reference reads. And it reads, whereupon they dragged him by the hair from the church, killed him, and burnt his corpse, while one monk was inveighing from the pulpit. 2 other Dominicans sallied forth with crucifixes in their hands, exclaiming, heresy, heresy, and offering 100 days of indulgence to every Christian who should kill a Jew or anyone who conformed to Judaism. They soon collected a mob, which was increased by a number of Dutch and Danish sailors who had landed from their vessels then lying in the Tagus. They slew and mangled their victims, casting many while yet living into the fires. The Negroes and the vilest rabble had kindled or burned at the church doors, to which they kept constantly adding fuel. Notice the Spanish and Portuguese Jews were called Negroes, and it was at the doors of the church that they stacked the bodies of Negroes, one on top of another. Some were still alive, and they set them on fire. They burned the sons of Jerusalem and the sons of King Dawid. This is just one of many persecutions which befell the sons of Dawid. However, these heathens would further the affliction, and this would eventually lead to their downfall. The book of Zechariah, chapter 1, verse 15 reads, and I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease, for I was but a little displeased, and they helped further the affliction. If you're wondering who would dare persecute the sons of King Dawid, well, we need look no further than Israel's greatest enemy of all times. The people in the Bible destined to be destroyed by Hamashiach himself, Esau. Esau, along with Gog and Magog, persecuted the descendants of King Dawid. And to find Esau today, look for people who have a perpetual hatred for the Most High Yah and his people. Look for a people who have a habit of killing the Most High Yah's chosen people over and over again. It's a people who would choke an innocent man to death just for the joy of it. It's a people who would shoot a young man of King Dawid over a can of iced tea and a bag of Skittles. Confused? Well, if you don't know who the Most High Yah's people are, then you won't be able to find Israel's greatest enemy in the Bible today. Here's a hint. During the times of old, they had red hair. Before we track the sons of King Dawid as they made their way into Africa, there are a few things you need to know. You need to know that the city of Seville, Spain, was originally called Ishbiliya. Notice the city has the name of Yah at the end of the name. This city with the Most High Yah's name in it had the sons of King Dawid in it. Now remember, the city of Dawid in Jerusalem was the place that the Most High Yah chose to put his name. It is in this place that we see persecution break out against the sons of King Dawid. For example, in Seville, Spain, the city previously called Ishbiliya, the hometown of King Dawid's descendants, we see the Spanish Inquisition start in Seville. And it reads, "It's tempting to trace some of the fervor of Holy Week back to the fanaticism of the Spanish Inquisition, which was founded in Seville in 1481. The Holy Office was set up with Rome's approval to resolve the problem of Jews who had been baptized Catholics, but who continued secretly to practice their own faith." Now, remember, when the sons of King Dawid were brought to Spain, they were first brought to the city of Seville. As the following reference reads, it reads, "In the 13th century, between a philosopher named Thomas and King Alonso, whence we may learn, if we can believe it, that a king of Spain, who had assisted Nebuchadnezzar in reducing Jerusalem, brought an enormous population into Spain, all from either the family of Dawid or at least from the tribe of Judah, and that the royal family resided first in Seville, then in Granada, adding that the exiles afterwards had their numbers greatly increased by fugitives from the desolation of the Second Temple." And so the Brews were brought to Seville. The Spanish Inquisition was started in Seville. The headquarters of the Spanish Inquisition was located in Seville. The first people to be burned and put to death at church by the Spanish Inquisition on Sunday was also in Seville. Not only that, after the Pope authorized Portugal to start the transatlantic slave trade, Spain issued contracts to govern the slave trade from Seville, the hometown of King Dawid's sons. As the following reference reads, and it reads, "What made the contract very much sought after was the ever-increasing demand for slaves in the Spanish Indies. Most of the slaves imported into Mexico and Central America during the 16th and early 17th centuries were from the Upper Guinea coast. It was this which was responsible for the extensive development of the Spanish practice of granting registers or individual licenses to ships engaged in the slave trade. These licenses issued in Seville." In short, Seville was ground zero to the transatlantic slave trade and the Inquisition. The Brews in Seville and other places in Spain and Portugal were continuously persecuted. King Dawid's sons were given choices: to renounce the laws which included the Talmud and accept Christianity, leave the country, face torture, enslavement, and possibly death. Many of the sons of King Dawid chose to leave their valuable lands and wealth rather than to accept Roman Christianity. Some would rather kill themselves and their children instead of becoming a Roman Christian. Those who did become Christians were later persecuted, tortured, killed, or expelled by the Inquisition. In other words, they didn't have a choice. There was a prophecy these sons of Jerusalem had to fulfill. And with that said, many of the sons of King Dawid were sent to Africa. When the sons of King Dawid fled into Africa, in many cases they were persecuted by the Moors. However, there were some places in Africa where the sons of King Dawid could live in peace. It was a precarious existence. At any time, their friend could become foe. Now, before we move on, let's refresh our memory on what these Portuguese and Spanish brews look like. And the following reference reads, and it reads, "And for every man of Anglo-Saxon descent you saw upon the street, you saw two nigger black Portuguese." Not only were they nigger black, they also dressed in black. The Jews of Spain and Portugal were the original men in black. As the following reference reads, and it reads, "The Almohad ruler Abu Yosef Yaqub is said to have introduced at the end of his reign an innovation with regard to the shukla, cloak-like garment of the Jews, because they were dressing like Muslims, and even like the most noble of them, in a manner which made them indistinguishable from the servants of Allah. Therefore, Jews were henceforth required to dress in the fashion of mourning among Muslims, dark blue or black, and the size of the sleeves they could wear was limited, only long enough to reach the feet. And they were required to wear black cloaks and black caps. And once they became new Christians, they were required to wear a red cross on that garment. Around the end of the 1400s and the beginning of the 1500s, the Spanish Inquisition began putting these black sons of King Dawid in Africa. And writer after writer constantly associated these Jews to King Dawid. As the following reference reads, and it reads, "Notwithstanding, it appears that until the expulsion, the Jews were not all molested by the Inquisition. For Abarbanel, who shortly after its establishment went to Castile, states that he was astonished at the power of the Castilian Hebrews and the grandeur of the law, and applied to them the verse of Dawid, 'Their thrones of judgment are set, thrones for the house of Dawid.'" Now, keep in mind, the sons of King Dawid, which fled into Africa, did so primarily in four ways. The first way, some fled directly into Africa from Spain in 1492. Writers spoke of the many ships which stood ready to transport the sons of King Dawid from Spain to Africa. In fact, the following reference speaks of the great numbers of Spanish royal Jews in Africa, and it reads, "The northern coast of Africa and the inhabitable region inland were full of Jews of Spanish descent. They had congregated there in great numbers during the century from the persecution of 1391 to their total expulsion." The second way the sons of King Dawid migrated into Africa was by way of Portugal expulsion edicts. In other words, Portugal told the Jews to get out, and even took the children of the sons of King Dawid and sent them into Africa. We even have letters written by the children themselves, which shows that they were eventually made slaves. Now, the third way the sons of King Dawid migrated into Africa was by way of the Inquisition. The Inquisition routinely expelled its victims to Africa by way of its laws. And once in Africa, they found themselves still under the authority of the Portuguese. This was because the Pope had literally given Africa to the King of Portugal by decree of the papal bull, even though it wasn't his to give. And the following reference reads, and it reads, the bull Romanus Pontifex, on the other hand, settled the dispute between Portugal and Castile in favor of the former, and apparently for the first time, granted Portugal exclusive rights in a vast southerly region. It confirmed the bull Dum Diversus, specified the district to which it applied, Ceuta and the district of Capes Bajador and Nail through all Guinea and beyond towards the southern shore, and declared that this, together with all other lands acquired by Portugal from the infidels before or after 1452, belonged to King Alfonso, his successors, and Prince Henry, and to no others. With the authority of the Pope, the King of Portugal wrote laws governing Africa. Some of his laws were written specifically for the sons of King Dawid, who recently fled from Portugal into Africa. At first, the King of Portugal encouraged the Jews to populate the region and serve as mediators with local African kings. However, as time passed by and more Brews went AWOL or began to compete directly with Portugal, the relationship quickly turned bad. The Brews went from reluctant ally to foe, and this is what led to the ordinances of King Manuel, who started the transatlantic slave trade. All right, well, we've reached the end of part 1. Y'all willing, in part 2, we will go directly into the ordinances of King Manuel, the history-making ordinances of King Manuel. And most high willing, I hope to get part 2 out within 2 weeks. And with that said, family, I want to thank you for your support. I thank the Most High for using you to help get these videos out to the world. So on behalf of all those who watch and learn these videos, thank you. For all those who continue to support, whether it's through prayer or donations or Patreon or sharing these videos with family and friends. And a big thank you to our elders, Elder Mo and Josh. And a special thank you to Maury Josh for sharing his expertise to improve the quality of these videos. So if you think these videos are decent, just wait until you see the Reclaiming the Throne movie that's coming out soon. Well, may the Most High Yah bless and protect Israel in these troubling times, and may Yah bless those who bless Israel. Hallelujah. Stay blessed, family, and shalom.